being like one misstep or even just one foul mood away from execution.
Yeah, it's an incredibly high-stress environment.
Right. That is your daily reality. You live in this sprawling palace, you have the ear of the most powerful monarch on earth, but, your job security entirely depends on keeping the king alive and keeping him perfectly happy.
Which means tasting his wine for poison.
Exactly. You are the royal cupbearer in the ancient Persian Empire. And to risk that ultimate comfort for a ruined city 1,000 miles away, a city you've never even seen, that defies almost every rule of human self-preservation.
It really does. It is a profound disruption of the status quo.
Mhm.
And it sets the stage for one of the most remarkable logistical and, honestly, psychological case studies in recorded history.
Well, welcome to today's deep dive. If you are a learner looking for quick, thorough knowledge with some real aha moments, you are in the right place. Because today we are unpacking a project that took place between 457 and 444 BC.
Yeah, the historical and biblical account of Nehemiah.
Right. He was a man who left a royal palace to spearhead this massive infrastructure and social rebuilding project in Jerusalem, and he completes it in a staggering 52 days.
Which is just wild when you think about the ancient world.
Absolutely. And to do this, we are pulling insights today from a really thorough structural survey by Bible Ref, alongside these incredibly detailed narrative and thematic analyses from 2 YouTube channels, Arc Films and Deep Bible Stories.
And our mission here is to synthesize these sources and extract the masterclass in leadership, resilience, and human nature that's hidden within this 2,500-year-old story.
Okay, let's unpack this, because while this is a book of ancient history, it honestly reads like a political thriller. So set the scene for us.
Right, so every great project starts with an inciting incident. It's something that yanks a leader out of their comfort zone.
Yeah.
So as you mentioned, Nehemiah is in Susa. That's the winter capital of the Persian Empire. He is the cupbearer to King Artaxerxes.
And we should clarify, this isn't just a waiter.
Oh, no, not at all. This is a high-stakes political confidant. It's a position of immense trust. He has daily proximity to the king.
Right.
But this completely comfortable bubble shatters when his brother, Hanani, arrives from Judah with some really devastating news.
Yeah, the survivors back in Jerusalem are in utter disgrace.
Exactly. The city walls are broken down, the gates are burned, and the city is just completely defenseless against raiders and rival factions.
But Nehemiah's reaction is what really catches my attention here. I mean, he doesn't just, send some money or offer a quick prayer of sympathy.
Yeah, he is devastated.
Right. He weeps, he actually fasts and prays for 4 entire months. And this all culminates in this terrifying climax of preparation, the moment he brings a sad face into the king's presence.
Which is a huge deal.
It is, because in the Persian court, showing a downcast face could literally be interpreted as treason. I mean, it implies you were dissatisfied with the king's reign, or worse, that you're plotting an assassination.
Yeah, the psychological weight of that moment is just immense.
Yeah.
The king looks at him and asks, "Why does your face look sad when you are not ill?"
Which is a heart-stopping question.
Truly. Nehemiah is suddenly staring down a potential death sentence. But this is where we see this amazing concept of preparation meeting courage.
How so?
Well, those 4 months of fasting, they weren't just about mourning. They were a period of intense strategic planning. Nehemiah prays silently right there in the moment, and then he makes his move.
Which is basically like being the chief of staff for a volatile billionaire CEO, right?
Yeah.
It's high comfort, but incredibly high risk. So why risk your literal neck for a pile of rubble in a city you don't even live in?
Because when the king asks what he wants, Nehemiah is ready. He doesn't panic. He doesn't just ask for a simple leave of absence. He asks for an entire massive supply chain.
Right.
He asks for letters of safe passage to the governors of the Trans-Euphrates.
And that's a huge territory.
It is. It's the massive Persian province stretching from the Euphrates River all the way down to Egypt. Those letters are basically a royal passport backed by the Persian military.
Wow.
And then he asked for a requisition order directed to Asaph, the keeper of the royal forest. He needs high-quality timber for the gates and the city wall.
So it's not just passion, it's logistics.
Exactly. Courage without preparation is just recklessness. Nehemiah's preparation allowed him to leverage his courage into tangible imperial resources.
And he actually gets it all. King Artaxerxes even sends army officers and cavalry with him. So he survives the pitch, gets the funding, and travels the 1,000 miles to Jerusalem.
Right.
But taking over a failing branch and turning it around is a totally different beast. You have to motivate a completely defeated, cynical populace to execute what is basically an impossible construction project.
And when he arrives, his first move is highly unconventional.
Yeah, he doesn't hold a massive rally, right?
No, he actually waits 3 days in complete silence. And then he conducts this secret midnight inspection of the ruins on a single donkey.
Okay, wait.
Yeah.
Why the secrecy? I mean, if you are on a ticking clock with a massive project, isn't sneaking out at night just wasting time? Why not announce your presence and get shovels in the ground on day one? It's like a corporate turnaround CEO quietly auditing a failing company's assets at 2 a.m. before facing the board.
That is a perfect analogy.
Hmm.
Because you announce a grand, sweeping vision before you fully understand the granular reality of the disaster. You lose your credibility the moment you hit your first obstacle.
Oh, that makes sense.
Right. The rubble was so dense in places that his donkey couldn't even pass through. He specifically surveys the Valley Gate, the Dung Gate, and the Fountain Gate in the dark.
So he's gathering the unfiltered facts.
Exactly. Without the noise of public panic or the scrutiny of local enemies. So when he finally gathers the priests, nobles, and officials, he doesn't just offer empty inspiration. He presents a sober reality combined with a fully funded solution.
And the people immediately respond, let us start rebuilding.
They do.
And the way he organizes that workforce is just brilliant. You have all these different groups. Priests are building the sheep gate. You have goldsmiths, perfume makers, and Shallum's daughters all pitching in.
Yeah, everyone gets involved.
But the overarching strategy is hyper-local delegation. Families were assigned to build the sections of the wall nearest to their own homes.
What's fascinating here is the psychological leverage. They weren't just building municipal infrastructure for some abstract government entity. They were defending their own front doors.
Oh, wow, yeah.
If you think about the implications for modern team dynamics, if you tie the success of a massive, daunting project directly to the personal safety and prosperity of the individuals executing it, you unlock a level of motivation that money simply cannot buy.
They were building the very wall that would protect their own sleeping children.
Precisely.
I want you, listening to this right now, to think about your own team at work. Are you asking them to blindly build an abstract wall, or have you shown them exactly how this project protects and benefits their own front door? It's a total paradigm shift.
It really is.
But, of course, the moment they gain traction, the geopolitical reality crashes in. We meet Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem. And they start with mockery, telling the workers that even if a fox climbed up on the wall, it would break.
Right, the classic demoralization tactic.
Yeah. So who exactly are these guys, and why do they care so much about some stones in Jerusalem?
Well, they're the regional power brokers. Sanballat is the governor of Samaria to the north. Tobiah is an Ammonite official to the east. Geshem is an Arab leader to the south.
So they surround the city.
Literally.
Yeah.
And Jerusalem had been a pile of rubble for decades, which meant these men had been operating in a massive power vacuum, carving up all the trade routes and political influence for themselves.
So a fortified, independent Jerusalem completely shatters their regional monopoly.
Exactly. Their mockery isn't just bullying, it's a desperate attempt to maintain control.
And when the wall reaches half its height, they realize the mockery isn't working. So they escalate to physical threats. They plot an armed raid. And the Jewish workers living near the frontier keep coming to Nehemiah like 10 different times, warning of an impending attack.
Which creates an immediate logistical nightmare. You have a workforce spread out along a massive perimeter, highly vulnerable to a concentrated strike.
Right.
But Nehemiah responds by balancing deep faith with profound practicality. He prays to God, but then he arms the builders.
The imagery is iconic. A tool in one hand and a sword in the other. He even sets up a centralized trumpet alarm system. If the trumpet sounds, everyone drops their tools and rallies to that specific section to fight.
He refuses to let the external threat paralyze the work. By acknowledging the danger and preparing a coordinated defense, he completely neutralizes the fear.
So the defensive perimeter is set, the external enemies are frustrated, the wall is going up, but then the wheels almost completely come off from the inside.
Oh yeah, the internal economic crisis.
Right, it threatens to destroy everything.
This is a masterclass in the fragility of organizational health. You can have the strongest defenses in the world, but if the internal ecosystem is toxic, the project will implode.
So a massive outcry arises from the common people. A severe famine has hit the region. At the same time, the Persian king is demanding heavy tribute taxes.
Yeah, taxes and silver.
So to buy grain and pay the king, these poor Jewish families are forced to mortgage their fields, their vineyards, and their homes. And when they default, they have to sell their own children into slavery just to survive.
And the most devastating revelation here is the identity of the creditors. It isn't the Persians.
Right.
It isn't Sanballat or the surrounding enemies. The oppressors are their own people.
This is the classic, the call is coming from inside the house scenario.
Exactly. The wealthy Jewish nobles and officials are engaging in usury, charging exorbitant interest to their own vulnerable brothers and sisters during a national crisis.
Isn't it staggering that even during an existential threat where they are literally holding swords to survive, people are still trying to price gouge their neighbors?
Human nature at its worst. It's predatory opportunism.
Yeah.
And when Nehemiah discovers this, he is furious. But look at how he processes that anger. He unpacks the difference between destructive anger and righteous constructive anger. He doesn't just yell.
Right, he doesn't fly into a blind rage.
No, he deliberately thinks it over, calculates his response, and leverages his anger into sweeping systemic reform.
He calls a public assembly. He rebukes the nobles, pointing out the absolute hypocrisy. They had been working to buy back Jewish slaves from foreign nations, and now the nobles were forcing their own people right back into slavery.
Yeah.
He demands the return of the fields and the 1% interest they had been charging.
And to enforce this, he creates this unbreakable mechanism of public accountability. He literally shakes out the folds of his robe, declaring a severe curse that God would empty the house of anyone who broke this promise.
Wow.
But the true power of his reform comes from his own example. For the 12 years he serves as governor, Nehemiah explicitly refuses to take the traditional food allowance that previous governors had ruthlessly squeezed from the people. He even feeds 150 people at his own table.
He understood that injustice at your own table will destroy what you are building infinitely faster than any enemy at the gate.
Absolutely.
And because he addresses the economic rot and stabilizes the internal community, the workforce becomes completely unified again. The wall is almost entirely finished. They just need to hang the heavy wooden doors and the gates.
And that shrinking timeline forces a sudden change in tactics from the opposition.
Right. Sanballat and Geshem realize their window for a military strike is closed, so what do?
They realize they couldn't break the unified city, so they decide they have to break the man leading it. They pivot entirely to psychological warfare and assassination plots.
They send 4 separate invitations to Nehemiah, asking him to leave the city and meet in one of the villages on the plain of Ono.
Yeah, the plain of Ono was a valley near the border, roughly a day's journey away. It was presented as this neutral ground for a diplomatic summit, but its actual purpose was isolation.
To get him away from his armed workers.
Exactly. If they could get him alone, they could assassinate him.
But Nehemiah completely sees through it. He refuses, saying, I am carrying on a great project and cannot go down. So they escalate. They send an open, unsealed letter. Explain the mechanics of this, because in the ancient world, an unsealed letter wasn't just poor etiquette, was it?
Not at all. It was an ancient weapon of mass communication, basically a public smear campaign.
How so?
Well, a sealed letter was for the recipient's eyes only. An unsealed letter was meant to be read by the courier, the guards at the gate, and anyone else who handled it before it reached Nehemiah. It was entirely designed to seed rumors and ignite panic.
And the letter openly accused Nehemiah of treason, right? Claiming he was planning to declare himself king.
Yes, which, as we remember from the beginning, is the exact treasonous behavior King Artaxerxes would execute him for.
But Nehemiah just swats it away. So they spring their final, most insidious trap. They hire a false prophet, a man named Shemaiah, living inside Jerusalem.
Right.
And Shemaiah tells Nehemiah, assassins are coming for you tonight. Let's go hide inside the inner temple from the assassins.
Yeah.
So my question is, how do you avoid complete paranoia when religious figures in your own camp are taking bribes to trick you into ruining your own reputation? How do you know who to trust?
You rely on a razor-sharp discernment rooted entirely in your core values. And Nehemiah knew the law. The rules were absolutely clear. Only priests were allowed inside the inner temple sanctuary.
And Nehemiah was a political leader, not a priest.
Exactly. So if he ran into the temple to save his own skin, he would be breaking God's law and violating the very foundational values he was trying to restore. He replies, should a man like me run away?
He realizes immediately this was a setup designed to make him sin and instantly destroy his credibility with the people.
By maintaining his integrity, he neutralizes the trap.
And then the climax arrives. The wall is finished on the 25th of Elul. It took exactly 52 days.
52 days. It's incredible.
From charred rubble to a fully fortified city perimeter, the surrounding nations hear about it and their collective confidence just plummets. They realize this impossible feat could only have been accomplished with divine help.
So the physical infrastructure is secure. But as we pivot to the next phase of the narrative, a really profound organizational truth emerges here.
What's that?
A physically impenetrable city means absolutely nothing if the culture inside it is spiritually hollow. Completing the wall was only half the mission.
Oh, right. After 52 days of a grueling, dangerous construction sprint, you'd think they would just throw a massive party. But instead, they gather the entire population at the Watergate. Ezra the scribe stands on a massive wooden platform and reads the Book of the Law out loud from daybreak until noon.
And you have Levites moving through the massive crowd, translating and explaining the meaning of the text so everyone deeply understands it.
And the reaction is intense. The people actually begin to weep in conviction.
Yeah, as they understand the law, the stark reality of their own generational drift really hits them. They realize how far their culture had decayed.
But Nehemiah and Ezra step in and stop the mourning. They tell the crowd to celebrate. They declare, "The joy of the Lord is your strength."
It is this fascinating paradox. The deepest, most authentic joy emerges directly out of the deepest weeping and repentance.
Yeah.
True restoration requires understanding and applying knowledge.
Yeah.
The physical wall kept the external enemies out, but the reading of the law kept their internal identity intact. They even celebrate the ancient Feast of Tabernacles, building temporary shelters to reconnect with their historical roots.
And they follow this up by signing a massive covenant renewal document. They commit to keeping the Sabbath, supporting the temple, and not intermarrying with pagan nations.
A total cultural reset.
And to cap it all off, here's where it gets really interesting. They execute the ultimate victory lap, the dedication of the wall.
Oh, this is great.
Nehemiah organizes two massive, spectacular choirs. They literally get up on top of this newly built wall. One choir marches to the right, the other to the left, moving in opposite directions along the perimeter, playing instruments and singing.
It's a brilliant piece of psychological theater. It's a public broadcast of their restored strength. And from a purely structural standpoint, marching thousands of people on top of a wall built in 52 days is the ultimate weight-bearing flex.
Right. It proved the work was solid. The sound of their rejoicing is heard far away. The gates are secure. The people are unified. It feels like the perfect time to roll the credits and fade to black. But this is history, and human nature rarely stays tidy. Nehemiah leaves, and the sequel is messy.
Chapter 13 outlines a devastating unraveling. Nehemiah honors his promise to King Artaxerxes and returns to Persia. When he comes back to Jerusalem later, everything has fallen apart.
It is genuinely shocking how quickly the decay set in. Eliashib, the priest, has literally cleared out the sacred storerooms in the temple to make a lavish apartment for Tobiah.
Yes,
Tobiah. The exact same enemy who mocked the wall and hired assassins to kill Nehemiah. He's living in the center of their religious complex.
It's a classic example of personal compromise overriding core values. And the domino effect is severe. The Levites aren't being paid, so they've abandoned their posts and gone to the countryside to farm.
And the decay spreads to the streets. Merchants are selling goods outside the walls on the Sabbath. The people are deeply intermarrying with foreign nations again, to the point where their own children cannot even speak Hebrew.
So Nehemiah returns to this chaos, and he cleans house.
He does not hold back.
No, he literally throws Tobiah's furniture out of the temple into the street. He locks the city gates on the Sabbath and threatens to arrest the merchants. He's aggressively confronting the offenders.
The text even notes that he pulled the hair of some of the men, which, sounds wildly out of control for a seasoned leader. Explain that, because pulling hair sounds like a playground fight.
Right, well, to modern ears, it sounds unhinged. But in the ancient Near Eastern context, a man's beard and hair were profound symbols of his honor. To forcibly pull another man's hair was to inflict deep public shame. It's the ancient equivalent of publicly stripping a corrupt military officer of his medals. Nehemiah is violently tearing down the public honor of men who had traded their sacred identity for temporary convenience. And he finishes this cleanup with a desperate prayer. Remember me, oh my God, for good.
So wait, he turns his back for a few years and it all goes to pieces. Does this mean Nehemiah's leadership actually failed in the long run?
Not at all. It requires us to completely reframe how we view success. It's not a failure of leadership, it's a stark lesson on the reality of maintenance. Building something great requires one set of skills, But keeping it great requires constant vigilance.
The transition from builder to maintainer.
Exactly. The work of faith and leadership is never truly done.
If you are listening to this right now, this is where the ancient history crashes directly into your modern reality. Human organizations, relationships, and habits, left entirely to their own devices, will always drift toward entropy. Maintaining success is often much harder than achieving it.
Yeah, you have to guard the gates every single day.
Exactly. So to summarize for you, the learner, Nehemiah's story applies directly to modern life. It teaches us to pay attention to what breaks our heart. It proves the value of doing the quiet preparation before taking a risk. And it shows us how to live with a tool in one hand to build and a boundary in the other to protect.
But perhaps the most subtle threat he faced was the distraction.
And that is the final provocative thought we want to leave you with today. Think back to the plain of Ono. The enemies couldn't stop the wall by force, so they tried to invite Nehemiah to the plain to distract him. What are the villages on the plain of Ono in your own life right now? What are the seemingly innocent meetings, distractions, or minor compromises actively trying to pull you away from the great project you are building? Because if an enemy can't destroy your work, they will try to distract you from it.
That's incredibly true.
The next time you are tempted to leave your post, remember Nehemiah's response, "I am carrying on a great project and cannot go down." Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep building, keep your guard up, and we will see you next time.